hyperspace. Now, why are we doing that? My lecture about the Illuminati and how they can mind control and use manipulations to get people to do certain things. When I worked at the Montauk Project, one of my jobs was to go into this hyperspace level of existence to determine what the symbols mean and bring it back for deciphering. The government knew that most of the alien groups they dealt with didn't use language per se. They used this hyperspace language that was a triad. And I call it a triad because it consists of 3 different parts, which are color, tone, and archetype. Now, when I talk about archetype, I'm not talking about the psychological or Jungian version of a mother archetype, father. No, this is actually a geometric shape in color that emanates from the mind pattern and from your DNA. I actually have prepared booklets for all of you so that you have a glossary of terms and other things in here that will come in handy during the next day or two. Now, what does hyperspace mean? That word is becoming more prevalent in the language in the last couple of years. But the first place you ever heard it was back in the mid-1960s on Star Trek, when they go into hyperspace. But that's not really what hyperspace is exactly. And in order to explain what hyperspace is, I use an analogy, because that usually helps you get a concept across and understand it in the mind. If you consider physical reality as if it existed as the yolk of an egg, then the shell of the egg would be the astral planes. The astral planes are the borderline around all physical realities, and there's more than one physical reality. And it kind of keeps it contained into its integrity. Beyond that is hyperspace. Hyperspace is like the glue that holds together all realities, astral and physical. Literally, for lack of a better term, it's a God mind. It's what keeps everything in existence in existence. It's the intelligence behind all of it. And it operates with color, tone, and archetype. So that if you understand the formula in hyperspace language for various parts of existence, you can then change that formula to manifest what you wish to manifest. Now, subconsciously, you're doing that every second of every day, because you're creating your reality constantly. However, if you're not happy with what you're creating, you're the only one that can change it. Because in existence, in God-mind existence, physical reality is almost like an error in thinking. It exists because people don't take, or beings don't take responsibility for their own thought process. And so when that happens, instantly it's projected out so that they can see it externally. And that's why physical reality exists. You can also compare it to water. If these were various stages of water, this would be ice, this would be water, and this would be steam. So this is, physical reality is like frozen energy. You can think of it like that. If this would be ice, water, and steam. And you, as a being, exist in all of those layers and all those levels. And you'll notice that in creation, Three is important. There's always three stages of everything. That's why one of the first archetypes that you learn is the triangle, which is what the pyramids are all about. That's the symbolism of them. And that is perfect creation. That's just a symbol of perfect creation. And you'll notice that in many uniforms or symbols throughout corporate world and business world and government, they use a lot of triangle symbolism because they're creating their own perfect world. Okay. Any questions on this so far? Okay. I'm going to go over here and talk about the flow chart of creation. And when I talk about flow chart of creation, I may use terms or words that are just for concept understanding. You feel free to interchange them with whatever words or terms are more comfortable for you. I'm only using based on my own training. For lack of better ability in verbal communication in society, there are certain terms that are just acceptable to everybody, even though they're not exactly that accurate of a description. For example, when you talk about God, what does that mean? Well, you can use all that is, God mind, universal intelligence, whatever is appropriate for you. So please feel free, whatever I write on the board, to alter it to suit you. I'm just trying to get the concept across. Okay? And I think I have to stay on the camera till he comes back. There's the eraser. May I erase this? So I'm going to start. I'll use something maybe a little darker. With God mind. And again, you can call this whatever you like. I'm going to call this whole thing the flow chart of existence. Now, if we accept the concept that God mind is all that is, everything that exists in any reality is simply a manifestation of a super intelligence, then that's really all that there is. That's it. Everything else is a form of that. Theoretically, and in many ancient texts and philosophies, God mind itself, because it's not he or she, it's an it, doesn't even know how it began. It just knows that it is. And it has no ability to even understand if there's anything outside of it. Even if there were, there'd be no way of communicating or connecting with it, because it is self-contained. This is self-contained. So that God mind itself, when it started to think about what it was, became self-aware, it then instantly generated another level of itself. Because once there's self-awareness, there is a concept of I am something, and then it starts to snowball and repeat and repeat. So the very first level of God-mind self-awareness, I call, for lack of a better term, Christ consciousness. Feel free to change it to whatever you like. This is not a person, it's a level of awareness, a level of existence. And then when that itself becomes self-aware, because this creates this, so that this actually has all the attributes of this, they're really one and the same, they're just different levels of the same thing. So therefore, once this becomes self-aware, and then creates this, which is a replica of itself, then this then does the same thing and becomes self-aware of itself. And the next level that it creates, or did create, was the angelic hierarchy. Here again, this is an energetic level. These are not names of people or things. This is just a level of existence. You can call it level 1, 2, and 3 if that makes you happy. Now, theoretically, because 3 is the creation or perfection, that's really all that should exist. That's really all there should be, because then it just starts to get self-aware and it goes into the triangle again. But that's not what happened. At this point, I need to explain to you a difference in terminology. Most of you heard out there that the words alien and extraterrestrial are the same thing. And in some modalities, they just use them interchangeably. However, as a government terminology, they're two different things. And there are glossaries that explain that in your pamphlets. However, an alien being is simply a physical person like you and I who comes from a different planet within the same physical universe. That's what, to the government, an alien being is. An extraterrestrial is a being that may not necessarily be from this reality and can be physical or non-physical at the same time. Kind of like an electron. Can be physical or energy at the same time and can leap in and out of reality at will. That level is called extraterrestrial or ET. And that is a separate level by itself. It's a borderline level between physical reality and non-physical reality. This is the part that, biblically speaking, the Bible refers to the fall from grace. Because this is the part where the self-awareness within this level said, well, maybe I'm more than God. Maybe I don't need God. Maybe God doesn't want me. This negative thinking began at a portion of this level, and immediately this level gets created, becomes more physical, more dense. Why? Not taking responsibility for thought pattern, therefore immediate externalization. And it then perpetuates itself. And then the next level where you all exist is human. And I'm going to put also alien, because I want you to realize this is not the same level. Human, alien, any physical being in the physical universe is at the same level energetically. Now, what do you think would be the next level after that? Keeping in mind that like begets like, and that each level creates the level after it. But what do you think is the next level after humanity? And by the way, the perception is that there's less intelligence as you get further down the chart. Yeah. Would be animal as well as insect.
Sense a misnomer, because animals aren't as stupid as people tend them to be.
Well, but an animal isn't going to operate a computer or fly an airplane or build technology for the most part.
How do you know?
Well, I'd like to see one do that.
You never know.
You never know, I was right.
Dogs do have vocal cords capable of speech.
Well, as a matter of fact,
And I knew a dog that could talk.
as a matter of fact, there are alien and ET groups that go into this level and raise it up to this level. And they look at like animal beings, which I can talk about actually tomorrow. So, yeah, that's right. But remember, each group, each level has the attributes of the others because they're mirroring it. And here's another thing. Each level sustains the one that created it. I'll get to that in a bit. What's underneath here? Plant. Then what do you think is after that? Well, close. Another word, that mineral.
Oh.
And then what? It's going to get a little dicey over here. Subatomic particles. And now what happens? This gets where it gets interesting. So where does it really go? Yes, very smart. Goes right back. Why? Pure energy. Pure energy. So really, even though I'm drawing this here in a straight line to give you the concept, in reality, it's a circle. And in archetype language, which you're going to learn today, the circle represents space or environment or existence. That's why. And does it matter? Does it matter where you are in the circle? No. It doesn't matter where you are in the circle because it's all part of the same existence.
It's also a life cycle too. It's not straight line.
Exactly correct. But now I'm going to show you something else. I'm going to draw dotted lines. Because those are the borderline areas. And when I say borderline areas, that's because this little section here encompasses physical reality. Or realities, plural, and I'll tell you why in a moment. And the rest is non-physical. Now, how does this part, this physical reality part, compare to the non-physical part? Well, if you were to take a little molecule of one little fiber of that carpet on the floor, that would be the totality in God mind of all physical realities that exist, and all the rest of the room would be non-physical realities, comparatively. So, in effect, within God mind, this is quite a minor situation. And in the complexities and expanse of God mind, it's already been resolved. Just that the people within it haven't gotten that far yet. Now, we know that each one of these levels becomes a support structure or sustenance for the level above. Now, so what happens at our level? How do we sustain or support what is above? They don't eat us physically. We eat all of these. That's how they sustain us.
It's all energy, though.
It's all energy. So how could we energetically support this? What do? Some of you every day.
Meditation.
Prayer, mental work, energetic work, that kind of work.
That does increase it, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
How that works.
Mm-hmm. And then that keeps this going and flowing. So that in effect, it's kind of like a gigantic energetic breath. In and out. In and out. In and out. Through physical reality and out. It's breathing. It's existence breathing. That's why you breathe. As above, so below. Your bodies are microcosms of totality. And here's something that's even more interesting. I mentioned to you that each one of you exists in every one of these levels simultaneously. Where? If you are at this level now, how do you exist at all of these levels? There is something called the Oversoul, or master intelligence, that feeds back into the God mind, of which you are a part. And your Oversoul is connected at that level. Here's the triangle again. So right here is the Oversoul description. Right now, as a human being, your awareness level is at this point. But you have the capacity to be aware at all of these points. Because within your Oversoul exists every part of creation that is imaginable. So that you can tap into that using language of hyperspace techniques and see every part of yourself as it exists in all of these levels. That's how magnificent existence is. And here's another thing. What's the difference between reality and actuality? What's the difference? We're in this room now. I might think it's warm, you might think it's cool, I might think it's uncomfortable, you might think it's comfortable, I might think I'm far from home, you might think you're close to home. We're all in the same place, but we all have different perceptions of that same place. For each of us, there is a reality to where we are at this moment. But that doesn't change the actuality of where we are. There may be infinite realities to the same location, but only one actuality. Do you understand? It goes filtering through the mind pattern of who is perceiving it. That's your filter. So that really, how does one reality exist with 6 billion people on the same planet? How do we maintain that, this is a wall and this is a lamp, and all agree to that? Is that an agreement amongst the people that live in that reality? Yeah. Why? Because there are foundational mind patterns to all of those beings that is common. It's the species Oversoul, or mind pattern, with a common base that we all accept as rules and regulations.
We have to survive.
Exactly. Otherwise there would be chaos. That's another point I want to make. That's what I want to tell you about. There really is no chaos. There's now books on chaos theory, blah, blah, blah. Why? Because they don't understand reality or existence, so what I don't understand I will call chaos. Big lump, no problem. What is chaos? It is a pattern that is not understood. That's what chaos is. There really is no chaos. I'll use the carpet as an example again. If you were an ant crawling on this carpet, you would say, what's going on here? It goes from red to blue to white to navy blue. There's no pattern here. I'm very confused. But you, as a person looking down, you can see there's this pattern here. And you know what goes where and why. That's the difference. It's perspective. If you stand far enough back and away, symbolically speaking, from chaos, you see the order to it. Because it really is just a larger pattern that's not understood. Okay? That's what that's about. Now, may I erase this? Because I want to give you another analogy of the universe.
I once had a bumper sticker that said reality was because we lack imagination.
That's exactly correct. If we understand that 3 is very important to existence, That would imply also to our awareness levels. That would imply then that 3 pertains, since there's God mind that makes all creation, that the same rules and regulations apply no matter where you are. So 3 then becomes important to awareness levels. And the 3 awareness levels that we'll deal with in this class are consciousness, subconsciousness, and superconsciousness. And again, you exist in all those 3 levels simultaneously, and each one of these levels has a part of your brain that it uses. What do you think the conscious level is? That pertains to left brain. Left brain is the logistical mind. All of your thoughts about physical reality emanate from your left brain, and who you think you are, your ego or personality, is centered in your left brain.
So then the subconsciousness would be the right side of your brain.
Ah, close but no cigar. Subconscious, well, I'll get that last. Superconsciousness is right brain. Because your right brain is the part of the brain that deals with non-physical realities. It deals with esoteric concepts, God mind and spirituality, creativity, intuitiveness, even emotions, all in the right brain. Then, in between, the balancing one is the pineal gland. The very misunderstood organ in the body, or in the head. And by the way, I know many of you have heard it referred to as the third eye, and they always say it's over here. That's not exactly correct. The pineal gland is really located in the very center of your skull. Like if you were to draw a line between these 2 points in your head, that's really where it is. However, there are nerve-ending connections to the forehead, which is why it had been referred to as this being a location. But that's not really where it is. And today and tomorrow when we do our work and I say center at the pineal gland, it really should be in the center of your head. Okay? Now, I wanted to show you something else about this. An analogy of these things. Who knows what a hologram is, or a holographic image, or what the technology is about? I've heard that term so many times.
I've watched Star Trek too many times to see holograms.
Uh-huh.
Isn't it more like, it's like a transportation of a picture?
Well, it's the creation of a reality, or like a virtual reality around your space that's so real that it feels like it's real.
But yet it's not there
But yet it's not there at all. And that's what our universe is like. The universe and your own bodies are like a hologram. If you know how technology of hologram is created, it uses 3 cameras with the same image focusing on one location in space. And when those 3 images converge from the 3 different cameras, a multi-dimensional form appears that looks like it's moving. You ever watch Star Wars and they had the Princess Leia message and she just appears and she's moving and she's like a little thing there, and that's a holographic image. By the way, that's going to be available to you in a couple of years on your computer. When, you know those video games they have now? Well, now you're going to be able to put in a holographic disc and little images are going to appear at some little location in front of your computer and be little images walking around there. So, well, here we go. conscious, subconscious, superconscious, like 3 cameras. Here are the 3 cameras focusing on one spot. In reality, an image appears. That's why cloning can be done from one cell of your body. Every cell of your body contains the image of the whole. Every little, what they call little pixel of a hologram, contains the image of the whole thing. So that if any part of the hologram is disturbed or broken, it can be replicated with any of the other pieces. That's why they only need one little piece of your DNA to create a whole new you. That's because you're a hologram. Physical reality is about holographic imagery. And that's what this is. That's why we exist the way we do. This is all an illusion. Everything here is an illusion and is really symbolic of the mind pattern behind it. And I'll show you how. If we accept that everything is mind or mind pattern, that there's really nothing else, we can say that is analogous to film. And you watch a movie. And what device runs or uses the mind pattern? The brain. It's really a device. So the brain is like the projector. And then, what do we have? What's the screen? Well, screen is really physical reality. So, what we have here, and here's the movie is running, and this one, it's your life. So really, what you're seeing all around you at any moment is a projection of your mind pattern. So if you don't like the movie or the film that's the screen that's running the movie, what do you have to change? This. The film. This is the only thing that will change this. And who's the only one that can do that? You. What happens then if you allow someone to put another film in your projector? Still your projector. Someone change the film. That's mind control. And I wasn't able to show you last night because I didn't have a board about how that really works. And your brain wave is like a sine wave that comes out from your brain and goes like this. Can be measured by an electroencephalogram. Thoughts are things, and they can be measured. And so what does mind control waves do? It matches the pattern so that the person whose brain is thinking this doesn't realize that there's something else that doesn't come from him or her, because it's matching the pattern.
You do that without you even suspecting?
You don't. Most people out there don't suspect. Every second of every day, every single person out there has this carrier wave attached to them. How?
Now you're scaring me.
From, you should have been here last night. How? From satellites, television transmission, microwave tower transmission, comes through the electrical supply system. It's just everywhere. That's just the way it is. And they use a lot of Nikola Tesla's ideas. And if you ever study his work, you'll know that he actually wanted to use the Earth as a step-up transformer or even a generator, so that you could go outside at anywhere on the Earth and stick a spike in the ground and connect to electrical supply. He was just going to charge the Earth so it would be an electrical generator. You'd never need utilities or anything because the Earth would be it. Yeah, but it didn't stop his work.
Is it still going on?
Oh yeah, most, if not all, of this technology is based on his work. Also based on his alien technology as well. There was a lot of alien technology as well. But in 1899, 102 years ago, 1899, Nikola Tesla invented a device that literally could pick up thunderstorms or electrical activity miles and miles away, kind of like a weather predictor device. Forerunner to the Doppler radar, if you want to think of it like that, 102 years ago. But something else happened with that device. While he turned it on and listened and watched, he was receiving transmissions, some of them voice transmissions, some of them language of hyperspace transmissions. And he found out that they were the transmissions of an alien civilization that was trying to control and dominate this planet. And he went public with it in the newspapers, and he was ridiculed. And that's when he started to keep his mouth shut about things. And that's when the government started to take his information. But he said that 102 years ago, which in the scheme of things was pretty recent, since all this has been going on since day zero. So we have to understand, and the analogy, that the only way to change the movie of your life is by changing the film, which is the mind pattern. And in order to do that, you need to know what it is in the first place. May I erase this? No, I'm going to leave that part up. Now, we had left brain and right brain. And we said that the left brain was the logistical mind, and it was the center of your ego or personality. And we also said it was all of the physical reality thoughts were based in the left brain. And the right brain, we said, was creative, intuitive, emotional, and even spiritual. And all of your thoughts related to non-physical reality emanated from the right brain. Now, what do you call a person who has no balance or connection between the left and the right brain? I know you have them in Chicago. They're called bipolar. That they switch back and forth with no balance between the left and right brain. Bipolar. And what happens when they get stuck in just one, and they can't go out of that one side? That's schizophrenia. I mean, they're only stuck in one side. You could be stuck in the left brain, or you could be stuck in the right brain. Yeah, exactly. They are politicians. But the balancing factor is the pineal gland. It acts as a liaison or balance between the left and right brain so that your thinking doesn't go to one extreme or another. It also controls a lot of the other endocrine or glands in the body that produce hormones and other secretions. It's very probably the most powerful organ in the body because it is a liaison between the left brain and the right brain. It controls fluids in the body. And it is the intermediary between the physical and non-physical existences. It helps you to determine what your existence is. And then again, I have to give you another example here. What is the difference between those three, and what parts of the brain are they associated with? Which one?
Well, no, the prayer would have to be left side.
Well, you're correct, but let's first define what is prayer? Why is it left side?
Because you're thinking.
Uh-huh.
You're using your left brain to ask for or pray for something.
And so when you do that, what does that imply when you're asking for something? It implies that you don't have it. It implies lack. And the side of your brain that would see lack would be the logistical, physical side, because it's, I don't have this. It doesn't have any concept outside of the physical. So you're correct. Prayer would be associated with the left brain, right there. What is meditation? What do you do when you meditate? Well, you're listening.
Yeah.
You're trying to have no active thoughts, but you're just listening to what's going on in the universe. Yeah, because you're receiving. You're in a receiving mode. This is a transmission mode, and this is a receiving mode. So what part of the brain would do meditation?
Right.
The right side. Because it's involved in the non-physical, emotional, intuitive side. And that leaves...
So you're going to say that visualization is the subconscious?
Yes, ma'am. Because, what does it do? Visualization pulls in from the left and right side.
You visualize and you do use logic to kind of still ask or say that this is what is going to happen, this is what I'm going to do. Okay.
Because what you're doing is you're saying, I know what I want from physical reality, and I'm going to create it. It's pulling both sides of the brain together to create something of your choice. That's why the pineal gland is so important, because it's pulling in both hemispheres at the same time. Normally, you're only using one hemisphere at a time. Either you're dealing with logic or non-physical. Very rarely do you pull both in and have both active sides at the same time. They have found, and you've read this in the newspaper recently, that female women use both sides more actively than men do. Men just do one side at a time. Men are bipolar. Okay? And of course, the scientist who released this information was a man, and he said, well, that really what's going on is that it takes women twice as much brain power to do the same thing that a man does. That was his explanation. That didn't come from me. That's the explanation that he said, because they proved that women listen with both sides of their brain, and then men only listen with one side.
That would make sense, though, because we're the ones taking care of the kids, and you have to be able to do two modes of thinking.
Well, exactly, that's right. And that's why they say women listen to more than one conversation at the same time. And a man will hardly listen to the one that is in front of him. Okay? So that's why this is what's going on. That's why you see more women who are psychics than men, because they're utilizing both hemispheres of the brain simultaneously. That's basically why you see. That's why women are more interested in this kind of information than men. And actually, that's only true in this country. When I go outside of this country, it's a 50-50 split in the audience. Whereas in this country, it's like 70-30.
Yeah, but it's a culture, different culture.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. But it's interesting to note that. And that's why, as I mentioned last night, the U.S. is their last target to break down, because these old habits still exist here and they need to beat it out of you, literally. So that's why they're going through all of this scenario that I mentioned. Now, the pineal gland has a symbol or an archetype that it projects out into your energetic web or aura that is a symbol that balances these two hemispheres of the brain. May I erase this so I can show this to you? And this symbol is called a T-bar. How many of you have heard of that before? Yeah, you've heard of it? Okay. Now, based on your genetics, it can look either like a capital T, or it can look like a cross or small t, or it can look like an ankh. And all three are equal in value. There is absolutely no difference in the function or capabilities of either of these symbols. Simply a question of the genetics that you have. And the color code of that part of the brain is royal blue. I'll get to that in a minute. How many of you are able to do visualizations? Okay. I always tell people, if you can daydream, you can do visualization. So right now, it's just going to take us a few seconds. We're going to each see our particular T-bar. So just close your eyes and center your consciousness in royal blue at the pineal gland at the very center of your head. And the first image that you see will be your T-bar. Don't be concerned if you can't see it, but the first image is related to your T-bar. Just take note of it, and then immediately you can open your eyes and become aware of the room again. How many could see it? Did you all see it? No? Okay. How many saw more than one? Now I'm going to tell you, in North America, because of the blending of genetics of races and cultures that exist here, many people are mixed race. And so, depending on what genetics are open at the moment, will be a reflection of which of the T-bars are available to you at your pineal gland. Very often a person will report to me that they see one and suddenly it changes to something else, or they see two at the same time. That's simply because of their genetic mixture. As certain genetics start to close up and others start to open up, different T-bars then manifest based on those genetics. The capacity and function is the same. Eventually, one will become more predominant than the other, and you'll just have the one again.
I have a dumb question.
There are no dumb questions.
Could it pertain to past lives also?
I don't look at things like that. Okay. For me, there is no past, present, and future.
Well,
it's all simultaneous.
Now, yeah.
It's that circle, it's not a line. So, is it a simultaneous existence? No. I'll tell you why. Because it's a function of the genetics in the body you're using.
Oh, really?
This is a function of the genetics of the body you're using.
Then why am I drawn to the ankh?
The ankh is for people who have the genetics of Celtic people, Eastern Mediterranean Middle East, like Israel, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Eastern or East Coast American Indians. Those are the people that have the ankh.
But I have none of that in my genetics.
You know Celtic or East?
No, I'm German, French, and Austrian.
French is Celtic.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And some of the Germanic races or tribes actually originated in the Middle East. That's why you have the Danube River in Germany, because that's the tribe of Dan, of the ancient tribes, the tribes that disappeared. Remember that story? That's where they went, in Europe. So yeah, you probably do have that in your genetics. Okay. Now, if for some reason you cannot see your T-bar, don't be concerned. Instead, you can use a royal blue circle with a royal blue dot in the middle of it. Now, what do you do with all this stuff? Every morning before you get out of bed, and every evening before you go to sleep, look at your pineal gland and see your T-bar. And look at how it exists. You might see the crossbar tilted or twisted in some way. However you perceive it, mentally straighten it out so it's completely perpendicular. All the lines are perpendicular. Balancing the arms of your T-bar is identical to centering the dot at the circle. So if you can't see this for whatever reason, you can create the royal blue circle and dot at the pineal gland, and centering this dot is the same as balancing the arms. You can, when you create this, use it in royal blue. Here's the difference. These may appear in different colors depending on how you're thinking and feeling. When you create this, though, you create this in royal blue because that's the energetic color of the pineal area. And the circle with the dot is a hyperspace symbol for the organ of the pineal gland itself. So this pertains to the actual organ. This pertains to the mind pattern flowing through that organ. Balancing will still balance. What it does is not only regulate the thought process between the left and right hemispheres so that you don't go to any extremes, but it also connects to your pituitary gland, hypothalamus, thyroid, and thymus glands to regulate all of the chemical and hormonal flows of your body. So even though it's a relatively simple exercise to do, it has a profound effect on the mind and the body.
Yeah, I often see the one in the middle.
This one.
Yeah, up on waking or even as I'm going to sleep. So that's why I was looking for the blue. Just now.
It could appear. This should always be in blue when you.
Yeah, but I don't see the other one.
Okay. Your genetics, the people who have this genetics are generally those from Eastern Europe, Mediterranean area, and Asia. That's what this one is. Sometimes you don't even realize your genetics until I see a T-bar and you say, gee, where'd that come from? For example, someone the other day who happened to be from Eastern Europe, so normally the genetics, you would see this T-bar. However, they were seeing this T-bar, which could have an East Asian influence. So she said, I have no Oriental genetics in me. But then I remember, you lived in Eastern Europe, especially Poland. If you know about Genghis Khan and the Mongolian hordes from 1,000 years ago, they went all the way to Eastern Europe. And they interbred with a lot of those people, and a lot of them have Mongolian/Oriental genetics mixed in with them. So yeah, you never realize the implications of who and what you are until you even look at your T-bar. And you realize, wow, my genetics really covered a wide area.
I don't think we ever realized that far back.
People don't, especially in America.
Yeah.
You have blinders on. If it's from outside of that part of the Atlantic, it's no good. Doesn't exist. Okay.
But both my sides actually came from Europe.
Mm-hmm. Most people, Caucasian people in the U.S. did come from elsewhere. Ultimately, there was no natural life here.
Well, my mother's side, I'm the second generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most people are, especially in northeast Great Lakes area, where there's recent immigration. So, during the day, the two most critical times to do this, balancing or centering, is in the morning before you get out of bed and in the evening before you go to sleep. However, that isn't exclusive. At any time during the day, when you get upset or traumatized and you just feel jittery and out of balance, balance your T-bar or center the dot in the circle and it will center you. And when we do our exercises today and tomorrow, we always begin by balancing the two hemispheres of the brain using this method. So when I say to you, balance your T-bar or center the dot in the circle, I'm referring to this. You're going to see, and you are seeing now, corporate logos changing to archetype symbols, language of hyperspace symbols. Why do you think that would be? No more words, no more pictures, but symbol, hyperspace symbol. Why? Instant understanding of what they're trying to tell you with one symbol and color.
And it's still mind control. They're still trying to control your life.
Mm-hmm.
Draw you in.
Yeah, and where are you seeing, what's the most famous store right now for using that? Where do they have this? In red. And when we find out what the colors mean in a minute, you'll know why they have this in red. And then you'll see what they're trying to tell you with that symbol. May I erase this? Before we go into some real actual work, I need to explain one more thing to you, because it's another very misunderstood, disinformed topic, and that is breathing. Now, there are maybe thousands of modalities out there with different breathing techniques that go back to ancient times and to recent modern times. But it's a very misunderstood topic, and I wanted to explain it to you since some of the preliminaries that we do in our visualizations involve a couple of cleansing breaths or breathing techniques. Understand that the human lungs, and I think I talked about this briefly last night, contain or are allowed to contain only 6.5% carbon dioxide. That's what the alveoli of the lungs or air sacs of the lungs can sustain. Eons of time ago, human lungs were able to hold 20% carbon dioxide. Why do you think? Now that's no longer true, it's no longer valid.
I would have to say that our breathing techniques have changed
Well,
considerably.
why? Why? What would make them change?
Stress would have a lot to
One,
do with it.
and environment. Yeah. What do plants do at night?
They convert CO2.
They actually emit CO2 at night. They emit oxygen in the day and carbon dioxide at night. So, if you were a civilization, didn't have air conditioning, slept basically in the open, where there were lots of plants that emitted carbon dioxide, you would then be able, or should be able, in order to live on that planet, hold more carbon dioxide in your lungs so you don't die at night. See? So that's why eons of time ago, human lungs were able to sustain up to 20% carbon dioxide levels in the air sacs of the lungs. No more. As the plant life diminished and the carbon dioxide production at night diminished, there was less capability of the lungs to hold carbon dioxide, so that in today's modern time, only 6.5% carbon dioxide can be sustained by the lungs. What does this imply as far as some of the deep breathing techniques that you've learned out there all of these years? What is that actually doing when you breathe deeply for a sustained period of time? What are you ingesting into your lungs when you breathe? Oxygen. You're breathing in oxygen. But if you disturb through intensive deep breathing the 6.5% carbon dioxide mix in the lungs, what will the air sacs do? Let's say this drops to 5% then. You're breathing in so deeply for so long, you've over-oxygenated, and now you have an incorrect mixture in your natural lung environment. What will your lungs do? What will the air sacs do? They're genetically designed to freeze up. Say, okay, you're not breathing anymore. Stop. You'll suffocate, literally, from breathing too much. That's what asthmatic attacks are about. And that is also why people have trouble breathing in those modalities of constant deep breathing. And I want you to think about something. When you see these yogis who are in very deep trance and very deep meditative state, how are they breathing? Hardly at all, very shallow breathing. So therefore, that tells you shallow breathing is more benevolent to the body. People who breathe in a shallow basis, for the most part, live longer. I know that's a new one for you, probably. Exactly. They're trying to weaken you, because if you can't breathe right, you're not going to pick up a gun or a knife and defend yourself if you're very weak, if you have the wrong mixture of carbon dioxide and oxygen. Believe me, they have covered every base that they can think of. They've been around for thousands of years. They have thought of everything. And so yes, they're trying to disturb the mixture in your lungs so that you don't feel right. You feel weak all the time. There's groups out there now called breatharians. Have you heard of that? No? It's very popular, especially in the far west and in the south. And these people believe that they can simply live on breathing. They no longer have to eat or sleep or anything else. They just survive on breath. Now, one of these people came to a seminar I did in Florida. It was close to 100 degrees, and this person sat there with a snorkel jacket up and a hood over his head, shivering, because he didn't eat. He just breathed. And he was killing himself, and his body was shutting down. Human beings are not designed to be breatharians. That would be at the ET level, perhaps, or beyond. But human bodies, at this point in time, should not be breatharians. That's why you have a digestive system. Everything in your body is for a reason. It's not there for show. And so, yes, you need to ingest food, not just breathe. I didn't need to state that for the video and everybody else. Very important. Now, it's also important, those of you who like house plants or keeping your windows open or sleeping outdoors, be aware that you may be disturbing this mix, especially those of you who have a lot of plants in your bedroom. At night, it's not a good idea, because those plants are emitting a lot of carbon dioxide, and you're just not going to feel very well when you wake up in the morning. You're going to feel like you've been drugged or knocked on the head, because you have almost no oxygen in there. You're going to have too much of this. I always suggest that people, when they wake up in the morning, do a minute or two tops of slow breathing to get this balance back to normal. And that's all you need. And there's many different kinds of breathing techniques. The one that we use in class mostly is called the cleansing breath. A little different than you may have learned maybe in Lamaze or other modalities. By the way, you must always breathe in through your nostrils and out through your mouth. Why? Why should you not breathe in and out through your mouth or your nose exclusively? What do you have in here? You have nasal and sinus filters that screen a lot of pollutants as you breathe in through your nostrils. And then the air goes into your lungs and is exchanged, and then the toxins are put back into your bloodstream as you breathe out. So what happens then if you breathe out through the same nostrils? Clogging the other side of the filter. Now, this front filter, you can blow your nose out. You can't blow out the inside. Okay? That's when people get sinus infections. That's when people get sick. And they start deteriorating their nasal passages, and eventually they could need surgery, which is very, very dangerous in this area because the membranes between the sinuses and the brain cavity are very, very thin. And I can't tell you how many times surgeons have perforated that and killed patients. Only they don't tell them that's what they died from. So when we breathe, always in through the nostrils, out through the mouth. By the way, their studies have shown that people who breathe exclusively through the mouth happen to have a lower intelligence than nose breathers because they're ingesting the contaminants directly, and it affects the brain's capacity to operate. So if you can, try to remember in through the nostrils, out through the mouth, always as a breath technique. And the cleansing breath I like to talk about is breathing in slowly through the nostrils while simultaneously visualizing a clear energy entering through the crown chakra, flushing through the body, picking up contaminants and toxins, and then slowly blowing out through the mouth and actually visualizing those flecks of toxins and contaminants exiting the body. And you do this until the energy that exits the body is as clear as the energy that entered the body. It's a flush, is what you're doing. Now, some people might see the clear energy exit after a few breaths, and some might take hours, depending on how contaminated you are. But it's not only clearing toxins, it's clearing negativity of energy from your thought patterns and your emotions as well. So when we do some exercises and visualizations today, we will actually be doing a couple of cleansing breaths before each one so we can expel the toxins. We'll do 3 or 4 in the beginning of the first exercise and subsequently just 1 or 2 because we're just maintaining. And you'll also see that after you eat food or do any kind of activity, there's more toxins in the body, so you'd need a few more cleansing breaths to clear that out. That's one method of breathing. Another method that I always like to share with people so that they can get through their day. Very often you're driving home or you're doing a task and you just feel so tired you don't know if you're going to be able to get to your destination or finish your task. So what can you do to energize yourself enough to get to where you're going and finish what you're doing? If you take the first 3 fingers of your right hand and you put them together so there's this little triangle formed in the middle, and then you place this at the very back of the neck where the indentation is, and you hold it there as you slowly inhale through the nostril and slowly exhale through the mouth. Do this 3 times. In through the nostril, out through the mouth, and again in through the nostrils and out through the mouth. This will give you enough energy boost. It shoots electrical energy from these 3 fingertips into the spinal column where the brain is located, so that it energizes and makes you awake and also stimulates your spinal column so you feel you can move a little better. And it's excellent to do while you're driving because you can keep one hand on the steering wheel and just do this, and then you'll be awake to get home to where you're going. Now, that's really only half a circuit. If you're at work and you really feel tired and you want to energize, you can do the same thing with the 3 fingers of your right hand behind your neck, But then, take the 3 fingers of your left hand, again, same little triangle you're going to form, and you're going to put it right here at your solar plexus. And you're going to do those 3 breaths again. Only when you do it this way, you're creating a loop. Kind of looks like an infinity symbol. You're completing the circuit, and that gives you a more gigantic burst of energy. I don't advise you do that one when you're driving, because you need to hold on to the steering wheel, although I have seen people around here not doing that. That's for a quick burst of energy. Another one is kind of a prana yoga or yogic technique of breathing, and this is a very powerful energizer you might want to do in the morning, is you stand with your feet about 12 inches apart, hands are flat at your side, and what you're going to do is slowly inhale, and as you inhale, you're raising your hands palm up towards your head, but you're not going to allow the palms to meet. They're going to just stop right above your head, space apart. Then you turn the palms outward, and as you exhale, you start slowly putting your arms down. And you can repeat this a number of times. Generally, it can be 10 to 20 times if you need to, but anytime you get close to the 5, 6, 7 mark, you're going to really boost your energy. Don't do it quickly. You're not flapping your arms like a bird. It's very slow rising up over your head. Hands are turned out, and then a very slow descension of the hands. Palms never touch together and never touch your body. And your feet are apart like this. Another very good yogic breathing exercise, which is really fabulous, is, and this might be difficult to do, so I'll just show it to you, is to actually, on your knees, you're going to be sitting on your knees with your heels at the butt, and you're going to, as best you can, try to grab your elbows behind your back, and then from this position on your knees, you're going to start to inhale to a count of 7 as you move your head forward towards your knees for a count of 7. Then you're going to hold your breath for a count of 7, and then slowly rise up, exhaling to a count of 7, and then without any breath at all, you're going to stay breathless for a count of 7. Then you repeat the exercise. That's one cycle. So it's 7 down, hold 7, 7 out, hold 7. That's one cycle. Do that 7 times. You'll be levitating towards the ceiling. You'll probably be drenched in sweat at the end of it. That's how powerful and energizing it is, like jogging 10 miles. That's how powerful it is. And don't be concerned if you can't reach your elbows. Go as close as you possibly can. And I'm going to give you a final type of technique of breathing, and that is actually using just one nostril over the other. Whether you realize it or not, you're really only breathing out of one nostril at a time. So if you become aware of which nostril are you breathing through, you'll know which side of your brain is active. If I'm breathing through my left nostril, which side of my brain is active? Right, because there's a crossover in the center where the left side controls the right side controls the left side of the body. So you can stimulate the side of the brain that you want activated by simply closing off the opposite side and breathing through that. So if I want my right brain, let's say I'm a writer and I really need to stimulate my right brain to write a story and I'm just blocked. What am I going to do? I want this side of my brain to be open. I'm going to block what? The left. No. Because my right side is controlling this side. So I'm going to block the right nostril, breathe in through the left, so it stimulates my right brain. Crossover, remember? Crossover. What does that crossover represent? Really, why does that happen? Remembering the rule, as above, so below. So if opposite sides of my brain are controlling opposite sides of my body, what does that tell us about existence? Physical reality then is what of non-physical? Opposite, it's a mirror image. So everything in physical reality is a mirror of the non-physical mind pattern. And the brain connection to the body is evidence of that. Okay? Did you ever hear of reverse speech technology? Where there are now tape recorders that are able to record your speech as you're speaking and then play it back to you in reverse. And what do they hear when they play it back in reverse? Something like that. That is part, but that's part of the technology. That's what they were playing with. What they're actually, if you tape recorded me or yourself or anybody and then played it back reverse, you would hear other words being spoken. What does that represent? My physical speech is just a mirror of my non-physical concepts and ideas. They have done reverse technology speaking with the president and other political figures, and what he says in the reverse speech is sometimes very different than what his physical speech is saying. So that's why we can close off one side of the nostril and get the other side going, because physical reality is mirroring. Okay? Does everybody need a break? Okay, you want like a 10-15 minute break? Okay, because you've been so nice, I'll give you a break. But we'll keep it to 10-15 minutes. They just need a break. Okay? Okay, sorry about that. Next, spinning wheel, and that was in Sanskrit language and even ancient Egyptian language. Is there a physical or biological basis for this concept? Exactly. And what the chakra system is, or what the chakras really are nerve ganglions or bundles of nerves that come together at certain parts of the body, and where they meet, they produce an electromagnetic field that has a particular color associated with them. And that energetic field then energizes and supports the various organs associated with that section of the body. That's what the biological basis of the chakra system is. And here again, based on some of that information I had given you last night on the Illuminati, there's a lot of disinformation about the chakra system and the colors. So a lot of what I might tell you in this next section may not agree with what you've learned over the past some odd years that you've been studying this. So ask questions about it and see what you think. Now you'll notice hanging up here, I have what I call chakra socks or chakra tubes, which are made out of silk from Thailand. Now I purposely made them this way, or had them made this way, so that they are hollow in the middle and they can be stuffed so that they can create a tube or a cylinder. For the few years that I've been teaching this, people have asked for a visual aid about the chakra system, and so I finally had these made in Bangkok. Now, actually the woman who made them was Madame Betty, who was Princess Diana's dressmaker. And she had this shop in Bangkok, and she went through and picked all the Thai silk that could match as perfectly as possible the colors that I talk about in the chakra system. Now, many of you, over the years, and I'm just going to show you this because it's so common, and I'm going to draw a diagram of a person. I'm not an artist, so bear with me, okay? Many of you over the years have learned about chakra spinning. How many of you heard of chakra spinning? but you've all maybe heard about it in a vortex manner. For example, you may have learned that it spins like a vortex into the chakra, then comes out the other side. How many of you have learned it that way? Yeah? Do you ever use that? No? I want you to think about something logically now. If you take a glass of water and you put your finger in it and you start going like this, like a vortex, what happens to the water in the container? What happens to it? But what's formed? Like a hole, or like you call a tornado vortex. A hole is formed in the water. So what happens on your body if you spin this way, your energy field, what's being created in you? A hole. Does that sound right to you? But does that sound like something you want to create in yourself, whole, in all areas of your body? What can happen if there's this tube going through you like this? Accessed. That's why it's taught like that. This is not a new concept. This goes back thousands of years. The way I show you to learn it, if this is a person, it is as if you were in a tube layered in colors. That's what these tubes and socks are about. And the spinning or the movement of the energy is around you in this cylinder like discs. It moves horizontally. Colored discs moving horizontally. In this way, your energetic integrity is maintained. There are no openings possible, and all your energy is then enhanced within the container. We'll try it together in a few moments, and you'll see the difference of how you feel. But I want you to learn something else here. You will see on my chakra tubes how many colors are on there. Now there are 7 main chakra centers in the body, but I have 8 colors there. I'm using a non-chakra color on the tube. Why? Grounding and balancing. If you could see energy through an electrospectrograph, you would see that gravity has a brown color to it. And your body, from the bottom of your feet to the top of your thighs, resonates in a brown color. This is what grounds you and holds you to the earth. That's why soil and tree bark and small animals and sand has a brown resonance to it, because they're picking up the energy of that field. And your body too picks up that brown energy. It's not a chakra color, but it's the color of the earth's grounding to your body. It's like being plugged into the outlet. The earth being the outlet and you being the plug. That's why you're separate like this too. Okay? But I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, because a lot of bad information out there about the grounding techniques. When we work with the chakra spinning, we always start from the bottom up, from the brown up. Why? What does brown do? You said grounding, balances, and also is a safety net. You will see that when we do our visualizations, we end always in brown, because it's a safety net that pulls us back to the present moment. What will happen if you start spinning your chakras, let's say from the root, which is where you all learn, up, from the red up, and ignore the brown? What could possibly happen to you? You might, you might experience a Kundalini activation. Now, there are about 10,000 books out there and modalities that say Kundalini yoga, Kundalini exercise, everyone do Kundalini. The Kundalini dance. What will happen if you activate Kundalini energy unprepared prematurely? You can go insane, you can get sick, you can die. Those
A lot of
books
people aren't ready for that.
that's exactly right. Kundalini activate. What is Kundalini? What does it mean? It means snake. And what is it based on? Your spinal column that's kind of snake-shaped. And the premise behind it is that you start at the base or root chakra and you push that energy all the way up your spinal column to the pineal and crown area, and then it explodes open. Only thing is, when that explodes open, it's a one-time deal. You don't go back. You're opened. And if you're unprepared and it's premature for you, you're in big trouble. A lot of people in mental institutions and criminal institutions had premature Kundalini activation. That's why they're in institutions. What happens is you start becoming aware of many realities all at once, and you cannot focus in any of them.
Almost like being autistic.
Well, part of the time, medical science or psychological science calls it multiple personality disorder. That's a form of it. It's really Kundalini activation, but they don't accept that. Don't do it. Your genetics are pre-programmed to activate Kundalini in stages and in sequence, so that by the time you're 60, you may be programmed to be up to this level now. Okay? You may not be scheduled to open up all the way. We have to change.